Welcome to another edition of the Radio Coffee House Show, where Jesus meets coffee meets talk radio. And the next one starts right now. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Clint Armitage with the Radio Coffee House, back for another episode. Today we're talking about prayer. And what I did was I caught an episode of Tucker Carlson. He was interviewing Jonathan Roumie, the star of The Chosen. And Jonathan was talking about prayer. And I liked what he was saying. Now, he was also talking about the Hallow app that he supports and he actually lends his voice to. But his focus was talking about prayer. So he was asked about the Hallow app and he began talking about the app. But what I want to focus on was what he started bringing up about prayer and how prayer actually gets involved in your spiritual life, in your life with God, speaking with God, being with God, getting closer to God. It all happens in prayer. So let's listen into what Jonathan has to say about prayer, and then I'm going to talk about some things related to that. All right, let's listen to the clip. Let's do this.
For me, it has been a way to keep me completely focused on God when I'm in the middle of life. It's an opportunity for me to access my faith in a consistent way and to get through life's biggest challenges. I mean, there's so many prayers on this app that I use daily. And, for instance, there's a prayer called the Surrender Novena. Novena it's a Latin word, just means 9 days. So it's a prayer you say for 9 days. And this particular prayer has been so valuable to so many people. Basically, it's very simple, but you repeat it like 10 times. And there's a whole, in the app, like it walks you through it. But the essence of it is this prayer where you simply say, "Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything." And you repeat that like 10 times. And the number of people that have experienced profound grace and just ease of their burden, the lightness of the weight in their life, has been, I mean, I've never heard of a prayer that's had such a profound effect. Like the rosary is another one. So there was this couple. They were trying to have their first baby. They had a miscarriage. They were in a pretty severe state, crisis, depression, everything that comes with that.
Yes.
They see an ad for Hallow. They download the app. They start praying. Specifically, they start praying the surrender prayer that I was telling you about, this Surrender Novena and the Rosary. And they were Catholic as well, so they were familiar with them. So they prayed the Rosary, super powerful weapon, and the Surrender Novena. And they get pregnant again. And their relationship is really growing together in faith and in God, strongest that it's ever been. 5 months in, they lose the baby.
Oh.
And they're holding their past son who had passed away. And the words that come to mind for this woman is the surrender prayer. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. It's the first words that come to her mind. And they told us, they said that if they hadn't gotten into this consistent routine of communicating with God through prayer, if their faith hadn't been strengthened, that second miscarriage would have destroyed their marriage. But it didn't. And they kept going. A year later, they had a healthy baby boy.
Mm.
And the first words that came out of her mouth that time was the prayer from Numbers. Lord bless you and keep you. Lord shine his face upon you be gracious to you. The Lord look kindly upon you and give you peace. I think their son's name was Jack, I think. And so the power of having that relationship, the power of prayer, the power of being in a constant dialogue with God, it's what we were made for. We were designed to worship. We were designed for that relationship. It's in our DNA. And the more we try to ignore it or squash it or bury it or ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist or that it's not there or replace it with something else, the more we just run in circles. The more we try to fill that hole with something else, with some other vice, some other endeavor, some other, righteous indignation of something, some other effort that will never substitute, never replace our need for God. It'll never replace it.
All right, so pretty cool insight from Jonathan, and you could tell it's heartfelt, and all in all, it's just good information for believers, right? Now, I used to have this thought when I was younger about Catholics, and when they did the rosary, and like Jonathan said with this novena prayer and all that, I used to think, I wonder if that means what the Bible says about vain, repetitious prayer. Is that what they're talking about? Is God saying, on the Sermon on the Mount, was Jesus talking about like Catholics, the way they say prayer over and over? Is that what he's talking about? And that's what I used to think about Catholics when I was younger. Now, I have a totally different thought process now about it because, I've actually researched it and looked into it. And then I also have spoken to some Catholics and I see, for instance, like Jonathan Roumie, there's sincere prayers going up to God from someone like him and other Catholics that I've seen, that I've spoke to, that I've experienced. And so my thought doesn't go along that route anymore. Not at all. Now, of course, there are Catholics, there are, non-denominational Christians, there's Lutherans, there's Methodists, all these different types of people who actually do participate in vain prayer because they're praying worthless or useless prayers. Something that is just repeated over and over, and they're not even praying to God about it. It's not really a sincere thing. They're not motivated by getting closer to God, getting to know God better. And so that's kind of useless. That's vain. And I believe that's what the Bible's talking about. And it's in Matthew 6. It's Matthew 6 starting in verse 5. And I'm going to read through. This is just before Jesus gives the prayer to the disciples and teaches them how to pray. Right? He says this in verse 5. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Okay, so you can see, and even before that portion of scripture right there, it talks about giving to the needy and don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. It's about this show, like this show of, hey, I'm so pious, I'm so great, look at me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. See, it's the motivation behind it, and that's what chapter 6 is basically hitting on in the first, 6 verses. That's what it's talking about. And then when we're talking about not babbling like the pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Like they are just talking to hear themselves talk. It's not really trying to make a connection with God, not really trying to draw closer to God, get to know him better, and really connect. And you can see the motivation behind it, and that's what Jesus is talking about. Don't babble, don't say these useless words. And that's what vain means, right? Like useless, like not worth anything. It's vain. It's no use. So don't even do that. And then he says, don't do it like the pagans. And so the first thing I think of when it says, and when you pray, do not babble on like the pagans, I think of 1 Kings. 1 Kings in chapter 18, when Elijah was battling the prophets of Baal up on Mount Carmel. Remember, they're going to go sacrifice the bulls, and they sent up 450 of those priests, the prophets of Baal, to come up. They're basically battling, like, who has the real God, Elijah or these prophets of Baal? And so Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, and this is 1 Kings 18, starting verse 25. He says, Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire. So they took the bull given them and then prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noon. See, and that's where I connect the whole Matthew 6 here, where it says, don't babble like the pagans do. And man, that's exactly what I thought of after doing a little bit of research. I was like, oh yeah, this is the one right here. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noon. They literally were calling on this false god for hours for no reason. Again, it's in vain. You're not calling on a real God. You're not trying to connect with God, because that isn't even God. And you're a pagan just repeating your words over and over and over for hours. And that's why Elijah taunted them. And that's why when Elijah prayed, he said it quick. And this is Elijah's prayer. This is basically all he said. He didn't go for hours. He said this. He goes, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are a God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the soil, and also licked up all the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, the Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. You see, Elijah's not standing there for hours calling out these vain repetitions, right? That's what I connected Catholic prayer to, that the rosary, praying of the rosary and stuff. But I don't believe that anymore. Let me repeat what he said. So Jonathan says that the novena prayer, you repeat it, and you say it 9 times, or over 9 days. He said you repeat it like 10 times over a period of 9 days. But every day you say, oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. How simple, how profound, but yet literally it's a submissive prayer where you're just submitting yourself, asking God to just take it from you, whatever it is, because you surrender yourself to Him. Is there something wrong with repeating that? And if you've ever done prayer like Nehemiah, remember Nehemiah when the king asked him, hey, Nehemiah, what do you need? He's like, oh, I better say a prayer. And he says a prayer right off the bat. It's these prayers of surrender, giving yourself up to God. I don't think there's a problem of repeating that over a certain period of time, over, 10 days. Now, I'm not Catholic. I'll just let you know that right now. I'm not Catholic. I grew up Methodist, and now I'm non-denominational Christian, but it is not vain when you just say words that bring you closer to God. Even if you say them multiple times, it's not vain. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. You know how many times we'd like to pray that when we're in distress? When we're in distress, it's not about praying these long prayers. When we're in distress, it's these short, impactful prayers that do something to our soul. It comforts us, and then God hears it, and then He answers our prayer, and then He comforts us. And it's simply saying words that connect you to the true and living God that created the universe, that can change your universe, no matter what's happening in your life. That's the type of prayer that we need. That's the type of prayer that everyone should have. And so the way I used to think about vain, repetitious prayers is not what I think now. As long as you're praying to God truly, sincerely, calling out to Him, surrendering yourself to Him, He's going to hear your prayer. He's going to hear it. All right. Well, hopefully that clears things up, although you may not have had that issue that I had about prayer. But if you did, hopefully that cleared some things up for you. And maybe you got some insight from the other stuff. Who knows? But either way, let's keep praying to God so that we can surrender ourselves to Him and get closer and closer to Him. My name is Clint Armitage. This is the Radio Coffee House. Thanks for coming back. And until next time, stay safe and God bless. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Radio Coffee House Show, where we're all about Jesus, coffee, and radio. We'll see you next time.